It is game week for your Chicago Bears. That's right. We are looking ahead to the first preseason game coming up this Saturday. And the Bears got some good news on the injury front. A lot of different injuries going on in training camp here through the first 10 practices. We'll fill you in on some of the updates that have happened today, along with looking back at everything that's happened and what Ben Johnson should do here going forward, as we are 28 days away from game week of the regular season, but it's game week of the preseason, and it's always game day on CHGO Bears After Dark. Let's kick things off starting right now. Welcome back to CHGO Bears After Dark. That's right. It's game week. Let's go. Doesn't matter that it's preseason. We are always dialed in here on the CHGO Bears podcast. It's CHGO Bears After Dark. This is your show for Monday here, August 10th, as we are 10 practices into training camp. And if you think it's been physical through the first 10, buckle up your chin straps, ladies and gentlemen. Things are about to get interesting. The Bears held a walkthrough today at Stevenson High School right down the street from the Halas Hall facilities to prep for what is going to be a big-time scrimmage tomorrow at Halas Hall before we get into a preseason game this Saturday. Shayne Marsaw joining me as always. How you doing today, Shayne?
Doing good. I'm excited. Like you said, man, game week. It feels so nice to be able to say those words. It's been a long time, and I don't care if it's, preseason or not. They just released the numbers on the Hall of Fame game, 7 million viewers. It's crazy. Football's back, man. Life is good.
Yeah, I've always said the 7 million viewers all tuned out right after the kickoff. The kickoff is the most beautiful thing ever. Preseason, First kickoff, Hall of Fame game, the most beautiful sight you'll ever see. And then the immediate next snap of the football is the most useless time that we'll ever spend. And we go run.
Unless you're TTNL. That's what we.
Unless you're TTNL. Yes. Well, this year it actually did hold some credence because you had the Carolina Panthers in the Hall of Fame game. It always seems to work out where there is some relevance to the Bears in the Hall of Fame game if they're not in it themselves, inducting Hall of Famers in their own right. That being said, the Bears are looking at hopefully some future Hall of Famers on this current team, and there's been a lot of different action and news. We're going to get into the injury part of the conversation here coming up after the break. But we've talked so much about that here, and it's really getting beaten to death. And we've got some clarity today. So again, we'll give you those updates. But Shayne, obviously you guys have been doing a lot of great work on the Tape Never Lies Network over the last week. So it hasn't like you haven't had these thoughts out in the ether. But for those that are just tuning in to After Dark and want to hear from you and everything that's transpired, what has stood out the most to you through reading the tea leaves, watching the coverage, and seeing the content coming through on your timeline?
Well, the part that gets me the most excited and just makes me want to sit back and say "told you so" was the year 2 ascension from number 18, when last year everybody's charting passes, and Dan Weeder was out there saying there's just way too many balls hitting the ground, and it's the polar opposite this year. Yes, there's going to be bumps in the road, but again, that's what practice is for. But it really, really feels like this offense heading into year 2 under Ben Johnson, it's starting to become second nature to these guys. They're not overthinking. It's just, they're gelling. And what I love hearing about it, I know Colin Cowherd talked about it, Ja'Day Walker talked about it. These guys aren't out there stressed. They're out there having fun. They score touchdowns in practice, and they're dancing, and they're celebrating. And that's what you want from a young team. They know when it's time to be serious, but they know when they can have a little bit of fun. And I think that's really important when you're in, the 10th practice of training camp, that these guys aren't just talking about, oh, practice is done in 27 minutes so we can, just get back to the hotel room or get into the classroom and get off the field. No, you hear Khalif Raymond catching balls before and after practice. Jade Walker talking about the same thing. And that spreads like wildfire throughout your team. And it sounds like everybody, including Ben Johnson, sleeping overnight in his office in June with bedhead. They're totally bought in.
Yeah, 100%. And so now this is a big weekend. I know fans are getting a little antsy. Every day practice comes, and I think most people just want to fast forward to week 1 because the injuries just keep popping up. But the reality is they have not really gone as hard as I think maybe some fans may feel based off of the injuries that have popped up. Once again, we'll get into that stuff. But that being said, if you look at the timeline of last year, there was through those first 10 practices, there was physicality, there was intensity, there was competitiveness, but it ramped up at this point now because you now have a preseason game coming up on Saturday. You've got joint practices 2 straight weeks where you're on the road, where you're going to be on the road in Nashville. Then you're going to be on the road in Cincinnati, or maybe it's vice versa. Either way, 2 different road trips where you're taking joint practices on a road. And then, oh, by the way, you've got a scrimmage tomorrow at Halas Hall. The reason I almost said Soldier Field is, for those of you that didn't watch Ben Johnson on the Hogan Johns podcast, which you absolutely should do, he kind of breaks it down in that because the Bears couldn't get to Family Fest at Soldier Field this year because of scheduling through Soldier Field, Bears couldn't get Family Fest there. He used that last year as somewhat of a game day prep. Let the players come in on the bus, let them get to the locker room, let them come out on the field and go through the pregame routine that they would do on a simulated game day. Well, they can't do that this year. So what did they do? They did a walkthrough today at Stevenson High School. Great way to give back to the fans. Way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, Chicago Bears. That's how you do it. And it's fun for the fans. It's fun for the team. Little high school environment, little walkthrough, little change of pace, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And now tomorrow, you're going to have that simulated scrimmage as you did last year.
Right.
Family Fest. It's somewhat of a combination, Shane, of the Family Fest, how you run through that, and also that big time practice you had at Halas Hall last year where both sides of the ball were killing each other. Sounds like tomorrow, that's what we're geared up for. So I ask you this, Shane, long-winded explanation of what's going on here over the next 2 weeks. Let me ask you this. Through everything that's happened over the first 10 days, are you comfortable with the intensity and the physicality ratcheting up even more than we've seen right now?
I'm perfectly fine with it, Greg. I think you and I are cut from the same cloth in terms of guys getting reps in the preseason. And, we lived through the fake callousing from Matt Nagy, and then Matt Eberflus just worried about, the length of his beard and his bees. And here we are with Ben, and, it's a guy that's bought in, and it's what we've preached at TTNL for years. And Phil has led the charge with. You need somebody that's maniacal. It matters. Every single rep matters. And listen, you can throttle back and give some guys, a little bit easier of a practice, but this is a long season. This division is not a pushover. It's what you have to do if you want to win and you want to go back to back in the NFC North. If you want to kick that door down and beat the Rams in the playoffs this time to get to the NFC Championship game. It's you have to. There's going to be nicks and bruises. Let's not forget that this is professional football. And I saw somebody in the chat, and I'm glad that they brought it up, is a lot of these injuries, it's one-on-ones. It's not from the overly physical nature of the practice. It's these things happen. I mean, Greg, we're older guys. I sneeze when I'm brushing my teeth, and I thought I broke a rib the other day. It's happening. These guys are out there doing what they're supposed to be doing. And Ben Johnson is going to get these guys prepared for week 1. We don't have to look any further than last year when you brought it up when we played Miami. Look at the Miami beat reporters and the Miami players saying that, Chicago was taking cheap shots and it was false bravado and fake tough guy and all of that. How did Miami do versus how Chicago did? You're on mute.
Rodney, I was sneezing. That's why I put you on ISO cam. But we should do ISO cam more. You looked good there. But I was sneezing, and that's why I muted myself. But then forgot to unmute. But Rodney is echoing your sentiment, saying in the chat, perfect example of the Dolphins crying last year during joint practices. Their regular season reflected the softness. 100%, right? You got two teams that met at practice last year. One wanted to smoke, one didn't. One went to the playoffs, and one team was a train wreck, firing their head coach, and that carried over. And so, somebody asked me on Twitter because the Lions lost their center. They took a huge hit today. You talk about injuries. The Detroit Lions lost their center that they paid big money, 3-year contract to today for a large portion of the season. And now they're scrambling to figure out who their center is going to be. Tate Ratledge, somebody they drafted, might have to slide in from guard to center. And now they're shuffling the deck. But I said, it's a tough balancing act because it's a necessary evil. It's about, preparation versus precaution. And how do you balance that? And yes, you can make the argument, guys like DeAndre Swift, Colston Loveland, and others, Joe Tooney, do they need these reps? The answer is yeah, they're somewhat. And I've always said, I've subscribed to the theory. How many reps is Tom Brady getting? That's what I always used to say for 15 years. How many reps is he getting in practice? How many reps is he getting in the preseason? Whatever he's doing, my guys on the Bears better be getting one more. That's my gauge. Whatever it is for the GOAT, who I know took this time of year very seriously, should be good enough for our Bears who haven't gotten to the mountaintop since 1985. But you're 100% right, Rodney, and you, Shane, talking about that Dolphins joint practice. And that's where this is kind of a rubber meets the road moment starting tomorrow. It's going to be really interesting because last year, while there were injuries to Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon before the training camp started, there really wasn't bad injuries during training camp last year.
Right.
And so you see Kobe Bryant carted off. You see Luther Burden walk off. You see Cam Lewis carted off at one point, right? And so you say to yourself, how does that affect the mental psyche of the team and the head coach who has a certain standard of how they want to practice? Because now this is where tomorrow it ramps up. You got a preseason game on Saturday. You got joint practices going forward. I don't think Ben Johnson's going to let off the gas, but it is interesting how things have kind of transpired. Tomorrow is going to be a big day of what Ben Johnson intends to, how he wants to set the tone here going forward.
Yeah, I'm here for it, man. I'm all in on Ben and listening to him talk. I listened to the interview he did with Hogan Johns. I was a little bit late listening to it, but you can just see how he's all in, and he's very strategic with absolutely everything that he does. And it's what this young ascending football team needs. He's never gonna Ben will throttle down, like I said, just to give him a little bit easier of a day, but then it's going to be ramped back up. And it seems like he knows to pick and choose. And when these guys need to ramp it up the most, he's going to have them ready to go. And like I said, sign me up for it.
Sign us up all day. TTNL in the house. Hit the like button for Shayne Marsaw. Phil Ottochian will be joining us here in a little bit. He's doing the coaching duties, and so he should be here for the second half of the show. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are live pregame, postgame coming up here this Saturday, so make sure you're tuned in. Subscribe to CHGO Sports. We're going to be providing all the game day coverage. Excited for that, but first, we got training camp to cover here this week. Practices tomorrow and Thursday at Halas Hall. So a lot to get into. We're going to be giving you the updates on the injury front for your Chicago Bears, and it's a laundry list, my friends, but maybe some good news that came from today. We'll fill you in on all that, but first, I want to give a shout out to our special sponsors. Our friends at Sunnyside Dispensary are here to elevate your baseball season here in the second half, because Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free shopping. That's right. They have a crazy selection with over 100 different strains to choose from, with easy online ordering and in-store pickup wherever you are in Illinois. Sunnyside has a location for you. They got it as far south as Champaign. They got it up north in my spot in South Beloit. And, of course, they got them in the city. They got it right down Wrigleyville. They got it right across from Bub City on Clark Street. They've got it all. They've got good news tea time vapes. That's for the golf course all summer long. They got rewards programs to help you earn through your purchases. So head to their website for only the best under the sun, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases when you enter that promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Sunnyside Dispensary, only the best under the sun. HICHGO at checkout to qualify, and only for 21 or older and Illinois medical card holders. And of course, got to give a shout out to our good friends over at Four Seasons, some of the hardest working people out there, because they're working hard to fight the summer heat, and they want to make sure your AC is working harder than ever. And don't wait for a breakdown. Call Four Seasons today and schedule a complete AC tune-up for just $89.95. Their expert technicians are available 24/7. I know you're seeing their trucks all over the city. Emergency services with no additional charges for nights, weekends, and holidays. They're always taking care of you, the people. Trusted by homeowners across the region, Four Seasons has earned more than 30,000 five-star Google reviews. So Four Seasons, your trusted local experts for heating, air conditioning, plumbing, sewer, and electric. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com, and make sure you tell them CHGO Bears sent you. All right, we're back here on CHGO Bears After Dark. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. And now, without further ado, as I promised, we are going to give you these injury updates that came through today, and a lot of them came through hot. But most importantly, the one I think most Bears fans were holding their breath for, as Ian Rappaport the other day kind of had a very vague tweet of, Luther Burden hurt his groin and will, quote unquote, miss some time. Well, that's a pretty vague term and can mean a lot of different things. Days, weeks, months. Well, we Bears fans need a little more specifics. And Adam Schefter came in with just that here today, this morning, saying Chicago's Bears wide receiver Luther Burden is expected to miss the preseason due to the strained groin injury he suffered Saturday. But the Bears believe he should be back for the team's regular season opener versus the Panthers, per sources. Now, Shane, again, they had a walkthrough at Stevenson High School. Video and pictures weren't permitted through the media, but fans obviously were, had their fair share of content on the timeline. And shout out to our guy Cream Sleeve, who was in attendance and had a great video of Luther Burden running up to fans to sign autographs. No noticeable limp. And I know there's a lot of Twitter doctors out there that want to take things, and there was a video out that was circulating from fans of the play itself where he got injured, and you can see Tyreek Stevenson kind of come down on his leg as he's trying to intercept the pass, and then immediately you see Luther grab at his groin, just kind of a happenstance play in a one-on-one rep. That being said, it's nice to see him not limping, walking around Stevenson High School. I'm no doctor, but it seems like he should be all right for week 1, and now we just got to hope he's right for the entirety of the regular season, and I know that's a lot to ask for.
Yeah, it is, but I mean, at the end of the day, that's your priority is versus Carolina, not versus week 1 in the preseason. And yeah, it stinks, and you want to have these guys all available. Odds are they weren't gonna. I don't know what they're gonna do. Week 1, they probably won't play much. Would be my guess, but you got to get them ready, man. Once you get rolling in this regular season, it's it's a really, really big year for a guy like Roma Dunze and Luther Burden, and it's going to let some other guys step up in his absence and get them ramped up for the regular season also. But man, when it comes to a groin injury, that's not just something that you can mess around with when you don't have to. It's not like you're trying to make a playoff push. It's not like you have a playoff game next week. You haven't even played week 1 of your preseason yet. So an injury like that is something that you can lose a half a season very, very easily if you don't take care of it now. So I think that the Bears are being overly cautious. I saw the video that you're talking about, and it gives you some confidence seeing him not, struggling to walk or anything like that. But I think that the Bears are taking the safest approach possible when it comes to a guy like Luther Burden. And they know the work that he's been putting in. Don't forget, Ben, I'm buying stock in Luther Burden, and he wants to protect that stock right now and make sure that is primed and ready to go versus Carolina in week 1.
Yeah, it's it sucks, man, because him and Colston, they were doing a good job of taking the spotlight off each other a little bit because they kind of were sharing it, and Colston deserves a large majority of it with what he's put on display at camp. But Luther's right there, and we talked about it on the last After Dark. I think both these guys have the potential to be budding superstars as soon as this year. Now, things like this, certainly put a bump in the road. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. And you always are going to hope for the best and the best outcome. But the reality is Jalen Johnson hurt his groin last year, and then he came back. He tried to come back quick to start the year, and then he had a worse injury to that groin and to his leg. And then that was something he had to deal with all season long. So, as someone like Luther, who's a quick twitch and and a lot of burst and stop, quick cuts, it's going to be interesting to see how the Bears maneuver through this. The Panthers are your week 1 opponent, and they've got a ton of injuries on their own right? So, I mean, this is a conversation maybe for 3 weeks from now. Let's see how Luther is, and maybe they're just being overly precautious. They have no problem saying, "Oh yeah, it's bad," and really they're just like, "We don't want to see this anymore. You're shut down." Who knows? I know how much Luther has been working his ass off here this summer. He thinks he's on the verge of becoming a superstar. So I know he's going to approach rehab the same way he's been approaching getting ready for the season to try to be the number 1 wide receiver for your Chicago Bears. So good news on that front. Could have certainly been much worse. Another wide receiver that got dinged up, and Courtney Cronin, our girl, who always is one of the best on the Bears beat, coming in with some great reporting here, saying some positive news on the Bears wide receiver front. Xavier Thomas, who left practice Sunday during 7-on-7 with a knee injury, isn't expected to miss much time per a source. I'm told he's dealing with soreness in his knee and is likely day to day in his recovery. He shouldn't be out long. Adam Hogan, Mark Harmon were on hand at Stevenson High School, and just as we saw Luther in a video, Hogan said Xavier looked like he was moving around well as well. So that's also good in terms of this is a great opportunity. If Luther's going to be out the rest of summer and he comes back week 1, let's say best case scenario, you're looking at guys like Xavier Thomas and Jade Walker specifically, even a guy like Scotty Miller and this new guy that's come out of nowhere here, Caden Davis, who continues to make plays. Hey, now these guys have an opportunity to get some chemistry with quarterback 1 and even quarterback 2. You're fighting for those reps on first and second team.
Right. And they brought in Ray McLeod today. It's a guy that's got some juice.
And that's somebody while you're on that topic, let's just get into it because we did have somebody ask in the chat. So right here, Shane, what do you think about Ray McLeod? I think he has some burst left in him.
He's a little longer in the tooth. I think he's like year 9, year 10 in the league, but I don't want to comp him to a guy like Khalif Raymond, but he's a guy he's got some burst, he's got some explosion, and that's what I love to see the Bears do. The Bears have been so that's not something that they normally did. Ben likes
they're
to go
proactive now.
Yeah, they are, and they're like, all right, we're going to bring in a guy. He's not going to get a ton of reps, but he's going to provide a service, and he's going to bring speed. He's going to bring explosion. He's going to bring the ability to provide yak. If they throw him a screen, he can go, or some special teams play, and that's what it's about. And like I said, to to me, you brought up a perfect name. I'm very, very interested to see what a guy like Ja'Day Walker does in the preseason with, I don't want to say a number one role, but I think he's gonna. I think Ja'Day is gonna get a lot of reps in this preseason, and the kid's got a lot of talent coming out of Texas A&M.
Oh yeah,
you know, he started to burst on the scene last year, and now with these guys, if Xavion is out, and depending on what they do with Rome, and obviously Luther will be shut down for preseason, a guy like Ja'Day goes in there and gets those important reps. And when you're young and talented like that, you just need you kick that door in, and that could provide huge benefits to the Bears moving forward.
Yeah, and you saw first practice. They had to move it into the Walter Payton Center for a little bit just on Sunday, and that was, Luther's out, and there's Ja'Day Walker streaking on a blitz. I believe I was there, but Dan Weeder had a pretty good explanation of the play, and it sounded like it was a blitz, maybe a zero blitz. I don't know, but all I know is they caught the defense in a blitz. Ja'Day Walker streaking down the field. Caleb Williams hits him in stride for the touchdown. So that to me shows that he's ready to take. I mean, look at last year, right?
Yeah.
It's a guy that was training camp hero, just like Caden Davis. Most of those types of guys don't make the 53. They get put on the practice squad. They get cut initially. Bears fans freak out. We think someone's going to pluck them. They don't get plucked. They end up on the practice squad. The Bears protected Ja'Day Walker last year and said, you know what? We don't want the Vikings to pick him up. They needed wide receiver help at the time. As Jordan Addison was on a suspension. We're going to keep him on the 53 because he's that talented. He earns it. And then on very limited opportunities at the end of the season, makes 2 of the biggest catches of the year. And so, I mean, he might have had 10 catches total, 8 catches total on the season, and 2 of them were 2 of the most important catches in the last 20 years of your Chicago Bears. So that just goes to show you how he's taking advantage of his opportunities. Caden Davis, too, gets 1 rep on first team last week, and it's a touchdown in the corner. And it arguably was the best catch we've seen of anyone all summer. That's as clutch as DJ Moore catching an overtime touchdown for Caden Davis, right? That's overtime against the Packers for Caden Davis on training camp, 1 rep on first team. That's clutch performance. So, some opportunities being presented through these injuries, some silver lining there.
And the one thing that I like about this staff so much more is if you go back to former Bears coaching staffs, if they brought in a guy like Scotty Miller, he was almost assured a roster spot, and they may not have used him too much, but he had the experience and stuff like that. You talk about a guy like Caden Davis, much like last year with Ja'Day Walker. Ben Johnson knows exactly what he wants in a wide receiver. And he's not afraid to use them if they are bought in. They know that, they know the playbook and everything like that. So it's un-Chicago Bear. Like, I know I say that an awful lot, but I think we're seeing the transformation of, the Bears becoming a big boy NFL team. And you said can they get to the point where they're one step ahead? It sure seems like it in terms of offense. Defense may be a little bit different. We'll see how that goes. But no, I'm very excited how this is playing out with this young, talented wide receiver duo.
Yeah, absolutely. And so moving things around with other injury updates, Kobe Bryant obviously was the big injury of last week. There's already been a lot of updates, but since we're doing an injury segment, kind of wanted to package this all together just so everybody understands where we're at right now. And, initially it was reported that it seemed like through sources that Kobe Bryant, your new free agent safety you got from the Super Bowl champion Seahawks, paid a lot of money to, comes in, gets hurt, has to be carted off. Sounds like reportedly initially he was going to miss 8 to 10 weeks, which would put him into October. Ben Johnson said, not so fast, my friend.
A few things that popped up since last time I was up here. Obviously, Kobe went down with the injury. We're still in an information collection phase on that in terms of the timeline and the extent of it. We should have more information here within the next few days, though.
Coach, you said that you're still in the information gathering phase with Kobe and his injury. Does that mean that the reported 8 to 10 week timeline is not confirmed yet?
I don't know where you guys got that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, hasn't been said here, so I'll let you guys know whenever we know for sure what it looks like for him.
An interesting underlining there, and then shout out to Pat, the designer, for following up there and holding him to that. Like, hey, what do you mean by this? And for Ben to clarify it, I don't know how you heard it. We discussed it last week on CHGO Bears, but when I heard Ben say that, I was like, oh, he could be back earlier. Now others heard it could be late. How did you hear it? Because to me, that sounded optimistic. Like, hey, slow down. He might not be out for 10 weeks.
Yeah, I didn't take it anyway. To me, Ben sounded more, I took it, I guess, the way that Ben just sounded irritated because it didn't come from them. It didn't come from somebody from Halas, that it came from outside the building. And that was kind of the way that I took it, but we'll see. I mean, Adam Schefter's got sources too, but these guys have been wrong before just as well, guys like Schefter and Rappaport. But yeah, we'll see. But again, this is something you got to look, you got to project ahead. You don't want to force Kobe Bryant back when he's not ready. Kobe Bryant, come back when you're 100%, because you got to play the long game in the NFL season. This is a marathon. You need him ready to go for the end of the, towards the end of the season and hitting his stride and into the playoffs. You don't want to bring him back a week or two early when he's, 65 or 70%, and then you may lose him for the season. So,
and the Bears responded to that injury by signing safety Xavier Woods, who's been around the league. What were your thoughts on that pickup? I was giving him some crap while he was going around signing autographs. I'm like, hey, man, you're wearing number 23, some big shoes to fill in this city, my friend.
Yeah, for sure. And no, I get it. My take on that, Greg's probably not going to be a popular one. I think I like Dylan Thieneman, and I know he's everybody's favorite safety ever because he's the shiny new toy. But on tape, Dylan Thieneman's got a long ways to go. We said that at TTNL, breaking things down. There's some concerning things that we've seen that we've pointed out to our patrons.
Why don't you shelf that part of it? When I think Phil's going to do us here in a little bit, because I did highlight somebody asking about Thieneman. I have thoughts on what I've seen from practice.
Yeah.
That let's combine those from what you saw from a pre-draft,
right?
And what I saw here later. But continue the thought. I apologize.
Yeah, so I think it's critical that the Bears didn't go out and sign a young, ascending guy that doesn't have the experience. I think it says a lot that they went out and signed Xavier Woods, who's 30 or 31 years old, has been around the league for a little while, because I think Dylan Thieneman needs that veteran presence beside him to help him ascend to where he needs to be. So, he's a thumper. Woods is he loves to play with some physicality. But more so than anything, that veteran influence, I think, is critical for Dylan Thieneman's development.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about Dylan Thieneman in just a little bit. I think that's a perfect setup here to later in the program. Let's stick to some of the injuries updates, because we had a couple more come through. And the big one, you sent it to me last night. Albert Breer was at Halas Hall on Sunday. Did a little video. I think he put it out for Sports Illustrated on YouTube and had some thoughts about, where Caleb Williams is progressing in this offense. Colston Loveland getting ready to break out as a superstar. Some of the things we're already in tune to locally, but cool to hear guys like Albert Breer, who certainly has the ear of guys in Halas Hall. And so that was exciting. But he had a really interesting update that he kind of just threw in there. We're like, wait a minute. And that is, after Albert Breer took in practice at Halas Hall, saying, while Karan Amagaji took the reps with the starters, and it looks like Ozzie Trapillo, who started 6 regular season games at left tackle last season, then tore his patellar tendon in the wild card round, might be back sooner than expected. And that is shocking. Patellar tendon is no joke. Yeah. We're talking about guys being careful, take your time. Regardless, of where this timeline is going to go for Ozzy Trapillo, that seems pretty encouraging that Albert Breer felt like he could put that nugget out there.
Yeah, it seems like he definitely talked to somebody, on the sideline that may have provided him that nugget. And I said, Ozzy being a young guy, but, that patella tendon, like you said, hasn't been kind to a lot of people, but everybody recovers in different ways. And it just sounds like Ozzy is bought in and, doing everything that he's supposed to be doing. And, we'll hope for the best, but that's another position like we were talking about with wide receiver. I know everybody's been banging the Braxton Jones is, was healthy and all of that. I'm not a Braxton Jones guy. I said on these airways, I wouldn't be shocked if Jedrick Wills wins the competition at left tackle. I said that early on. I think he's a more talented player. He's got to stay healthy, though. I think he's a more talented player than Braxton Jones could ever think of being. But it is what it is, and you get Ozzy back at whatever point he comes back. It's just going to provide amazing depth for the Chicago Bears because you're pushing a guy like the Canadian Eagle even down the depth chart. And,
yep.
He's probably more suited over on the right side to back up Darnell anyway.
And wherever they put him, the team and the coaching staff and Roshar and Ben like Theo Benedict and know that they can trust him in a pinch, whether his ceiling has a cap to it, even though the coaching staff always says they don't put a cap on ceilings for players. So will be interesting to see some good news, a lot of different good news from the injury front today. So that is relieving because this is always a scary time of the year, a necessary evil because they have to get ready and get calloused up. Those aren't cliche. And I think last year was proof of purchase with Ben Johnson on how those results deliver when you get to the regular season. So a lot more to discuss. We're going to take one more time out, give you a quick reminder on how to become a diehard and whatnot. And when we come back, we'll bring Draft Dr. Phil into the discussion and we'll continue our thoughts on your Chicago Bears as we are 34 days from week 1, but we are in game week of the preseason. So that's good enough for me. Exciting stuff. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. When we come back, Draft Dr. Phil will bring his thoughts. Hey guys, want to give you a quick reminder that now is as good a time as ever to become a diehard at CHGO Sports. That's right. Sports over everything, Chicago over everything. Make sure you become a diehard. Head to allchgo.com/diehard. Use that code JOHNS, JAHNS, when you sign up. That's going to get you $36 for an entire year subscription. That's going to get you exclusive written content from Adam Johns, Adam Hogue, Mark Carman, Patrick Norton, all the way across the board for all your Bears coverage and all the teams in the city for that matter. Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox, 2 teams fighting to get into a pennant race. That's what I'm talking about. The Bulls are on the rise with Caleb Wilson. So many things going on, and this is why you need to become a diehard because you also get a free shirt as soon as you sign up. The shirt of your choice. That's right. You can have whatever you want. We got great designs. There's a couple of them right there. So once again, you get a free shirt, you get exclusive written content, and you get discounts on our events as well. We got a big one coming up, the CHGO Kickoff Classic. That's August 28th, presented by Sunnyside. Once again, we are going to be at Cog Hill for a shotgun start at 9 a.m. You don't have to be a diehard to come to the golf outing or any of our tailgates for that matter. But if you do, you get a discount on that event. Regardless, go to allchgo.com/events to get into the golf outing. If you want to golf with me, you have that opportunity. There's packages available, different things, whether it's 2-sums, 4-sums, you name it, we have it for you. allchgo.com/events for all the information on the golf outing and our tailgates coming up all season long for every home game, and allchgo.com/diehard to sign up. We appreciate your support, and we're going to make sure we give it back by giving you great content all season long for your Chicago Bears. All right, we're back here on CHGO Bears After Dark, and joining us here in the discussion is the old ball coach. Yes. That's right, Draft Dr. Phil Ottochian from The Tape Never Lies. joining the program as we are 10 practices in to training camp and looking ahead to a big scrimmage tomorrow, a preseason game on Saturday, joint practices over the next couple weeks, and week 1 of the regular season on the horizon. Phil, it's a beautiful thing, my friend.
It is a beautiful thing. Anytime you got football going on, it's a beautiful thing. And the Chicago Bears in training camp, getting prepared for their first actual live opponent, Bullets, is very, very important. Today, we had our live work, and you get some answers. You got to have that fire, that passion, and determination at the point of attack that sets the tone and the precedence of what it is your offensive and defensive line is going to be. And as they go, so do the Chicago Bears. Despite it all, the offensive line is going to be the most important thing when you get into this position of the season, to see who those 5 guys are that are going to set the tone and build a cohesive unit moving forward. That's when the pads everyone talks about. We see when the pads come on. It's really the offensive line setting the tone and then everything falling there after, Greg. And for me, the Chicago Bears have a lot of questions when it comes to the left tackle position, as we all know, and the defensive line. So
why don't you stay on the left tackle there as I'm bringing in a video here into the hopper of Ben Johnson talking about it, set you up, and then we'll hear from Ben on that left tackle competition. No, I mean, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. I have one, but I didn't want to cut you off. I just saw you were segueing to defense. I do have a video on Ben talking about it, but I wanted you to finish your thoughts if you had them.
Yeah, I mean, as Shane talked, those pillar pieces that are missing on the Bears happen to be pass rusher and left tackle. They've avoided them in not trying to. I know they were trying to get in on the Kelvin Banks stuff and what have you. With this left tackle position, they've thrown some picks at it. Ozzie was really more of a right tackle that they put there. The good news with him being able to return sooner, whatever that means, is also bad news at the same time, because you're still in the same position that you're in right now. Is it Amagaji? Is it Jones? Is it Wills? Is it the Theo Benedict? That answer is necessary. They have some idea right now, but until we go live and we're like, this is go time, guys, let's see who answers that bell. The last time I checked, Braxton Jones looks like he could be the cover boy for a new fast food Chinese restaurant with the chopstick ankles and legs, right? Because that's the same position that he's in. When you have that kind of weakness, you got to do something about it. The other guys, Jedrick coming off injury, done it before. Classic showcase of underachieving with
let me tell you what I saw
ceiling.
tell you what I saw from Jedrick Wills the other day. Got first team reps at left tackle on Saturday, and at one point they did a design quarterback run left, and Jedrick got out in the open and got downhill, kind of in the way that Braxton Jones is actually one of the strengths I think that he has, is to be able to do that. And Jedrick Wills showed that he has that ability as well. But I thought the other one that I thought really stood out was the final play that got a lot of publicity from Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze for the back foot throw launch to the goalpost. Rome makes an incredible catch, both feet down, kind of a Hail Mary type of play. But what you don't see in the clip is that Caleb Williams drops back. He's kind of fading left side of the hash of the pocket. And Jedrick Wills is kind of trying to contain and do this dance with Austin Booker. And Austin tries to go in and Jedrick follows him. Then he tries to go out and Jedrick follows him. But Caleb is trying to manipulate the leverage of Jedrick Wills as Caleb's going back and forth. Jedrick's trying to go and he's feeling him. And that's where Caleb decides, okay, now I'm going to plant and throw. And I thought Jedrick just did such a good job of just trying to be an island body, and a just somebody that's going to get in the way so Caleb can figure out what he's going to do. I just thought Jedrick showed a lot of patience in that moment, not really knowing what Caleb had in mind until Caleb finally fired that ball.
Yeah, I haven't seen the play, but if I saw it, I could tell you what was going on, but it sounds like he was on the backside of the play, mirroring and staying in perfect leverage and relationship to the defensive player. Again, we're going to get a lot of answers. To me, I look at things just like I said about Darnell Wright when he was coming out. What stood out to me was his feet and his ability to play with amazing power and leverage. He's very patient and he's very physical at the point of attack. When you are able to be aggressive and deliver the blow on these guys and maintain control, that's where you get great or outstanding left tackle play. Everybody looks at what Trent Williams and looks at how athletic he is. But if you really, really watch the tape, his delivering the blow, jolting these guys with confidence, and his great feet gives him the edge off of any great pass rusher. What the Bears have not had is that kind of dog, as Shane and I have talked about, at left tackle, where they're good at both run blocking and pass blocking, and they can deliver that blow and aggressively control these defenders. The guy that could do it is, the two guys that could do it are Amagaji and Wills. Those are the guys that they have the athleticism, they have the footwork, they have the power and the build. Can they do it? Now, I saw someone in the chat. Does Phil really believe that Ozzy Trapillo wouldn't be the left tackle if he wasn't injured? There's a lot of what ifs in there. Everyone's crowning Trapillo for what he did, but if you really looked at the tape, you saw he got a lot of chips, a lot of help, a lot of understanding. We're playing decent to allow you to grow into the position, where Trapillo wasn't this outstanding left tackle that we lost. We saw an ascending football player that ascended where even I thought he could be. That doesn't mean, as the coach stated to you, this is a new season. Trapillo doesn't just automatically walk in. That's your starter.
What I love is that Phil said we need dogs on the offensive line, and then there comes one right on cue. That's how it goes. So let's bring Ben Johnson into the conversation and let him kind of explain where he's at in terms of deciding who the left tackle will be for your Chicago Bears.
We're hoping, maybe middle of next week we'll have a lot of clarity there. We're going to continue to roll guys through. Karan's certainly taking some reps over there. Jedrick, Theo's in the mix. This is not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination. We're going to continue to cycle guys through.
But would you hope to have an answer a lot sooner than you did last year?
Of course. But we'll go as long as we need to. And even if that means into the season, we'll do whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes, Craig.
Yeah. And that's what they did last year, right? That's exactly, they went all the way into the 5 weeks into the season, into the bye week, until they finally, settled in, and first it was Braxton, then it was Theo, and then Ozzy came in for the second half of the season. So, Ben's not afraid to wait this out, but at the same time, I think he is looking for clarity. And Braxton Jones, we talked about it, guys. All three of us aren't the biggest Braxton believers. We're all more than happy if Braxton proves us wrong. That being said, he does get banged up, and I know it's frustrating for him. He slammed his helmet and came off, and it sounds like it's not serious. But day to day and week to week for Braxton, while that might be a minor injury, isn't minor for his circumstances right now when you're in a left tackle competition. Last year, you were kind of handed it by default. And now this year, I don't know if he can expect the team to hand it to him by default again if he can't go out there and actually show it with the reps in August.
Exactly, and I think it's critical that Braxton Jones, with all of his faults physically and on the field, he's not a dummy. He realizes that he's got two very talented and kind of untapped players behind him. And listen, Jedrick Wills was a top 10 pick for a reason. Karan Amagaji has had his issues staying healthy, but there is talent there, and Phil can speak on that too. But Braxton knows you miss a day, you miss 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, however it adds up for him, that puts him behind the 8 ball even more. And he knows that there's pieces there that can step up and that are talented enough to keep him off the field, no matter if he's healthy or not.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a big moment here for Jedrick Wills, and when you're splitting reps amongst, I mean, yes, they keep.
Can I say one?
Hold on, real quick, because I'm just saying Theo Benedict, while they keep bringing him into discussion verbally, he's not really getting those reps. So you have Karan Amagaji, you have Jedrick Wills, you have Braxton Jones, who were in that rotation. Now Braxton is out. To your point, it's not just about the talent level, which certainly Jedrick Wills possesses, but now that he doesn't have to share those snaps, he's going to start building continuity and chemistry. And now those reps are going to look a little more comfortable. And now when you're looking at a competition where before everybody's kind of a little off kilter because they don't know who, is today going to be my day or who? No, Jedrick's going to be in a little bit of a rhythm if Braxton can't come back for another week. And now he's really got a hand tied behind his back trying to win this competition. But go ahead, Phil.
Well, I want to just speak to you about Braxton Jones. If you have an issue in regards to what it is you bring to the table as a football player, that issue has reared itself ad nauseum to every real football analyst of the offensive line out there. Every person or coach that has looked at Braxton Jones has said, this is what he needs to improve on. And the issue I really have with Ryan Poles and the Bears is believing in somebody that doesn't believe in improving themselves. Your body is your brand. If there's a weakness, you do something about it. Get out there and completely fix what is foiling you. That is the problem with Braxton Jones. He doesn't take what is his weakness and work on that to get it better. And all I ever see is the same kind of issues. He's unable to anchor and be physical at the point of attack. Two things that Ben Johnson and Rashard really need, and every offensive line coach needs. And that's on Braxton at this point. It's just the same story. If your guy is Braxton Jones, we're going to be in the same predicament we're always been in and always continue to be in. So you want the competition because competition breeds success, Jerry. I don't know if you know football, but I do. And when you have that and you build off of it and you allow somebody like Braxton Jones to enter the competition, your expectation as a coach is that Braxton is going to do everything in his power to be the best he possibly can be. But every time I turn on the tape or turn around and listen to someone like that's there, like Greg, they're telling me Braxton is the same as the Braxton of old. And that one point, are you saying, okay, let's turn the page? I saw the same thing with Charles Leno. Did you win with Charles Leno? Yeah, you won some games because you were able to scheme around it. But the reality was you were scheming to protect your offense because of somebody was lacking the ability to do what they needed to do to get your team better. And this is where we are with Ben Johnson. And I just get fired up with it because the opportunity to add somebody else in here of Will's character, like Shane said, is better for the Bears.
But you know what? And these things tend to situate themselves, right? And right away, Braxton, and it's a happenstance thing, not blaming him, but this is just the nature of the business. And so now this decision, we'll see. I know they'd probably prefer Braxton. I don't know. He's been here longer, but all I know is, it's now reached a point where he's going to have a tough time. I'll be surprised, but I think this weekend, and I also wanted to clarify on the video where Ben Johnson said, we're going to have an answer middle of next week. That press conference was from last week. So
Right.
they're hoping they have an answer middle of this week. Now Braxton is out. Now they've got some things to work through, but he's looking to try to and it seems like at center, Bradbury's pretty much solidifying himself. We're not writing out Logan Jones quite yet, but let him develop. But regardless, I'm just saying Ben Johnson's looking to solidify this offensive line sooner rather than later.
Exactly. And
was what he'd prefer.
I think the biggest thing that people need to take away, I mean, I know there's geniuses in the chat that think that they know football and don't, but it's not about injuries with Braxton Jones. That was last year. This is year 5 for Braxton. When he came out in the draft, guess what Braxton's number one issue was anchoring. Year 2, his biggest issue, anchoring. Year 3, anchoring. Year 4, he got injured. So yes, that was a reason and prevented him from anchoring. This year, guess what his problem is? It's anchoring. Right. It's not going to change. He is who he is at this point. Well, is he not putting in enough work? You're in year 5, and your year 1 issue is still your issue. That's a Braxton Jones problem or a lack of talent problem.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's only so much you can do with the talent that you possess. I can study math for the next month. I'll still fail the test after the month is over. It doesn't matter. I just don't. The numbers don't respond to me. And as you said, Jedrick Wills was a top 10 pick for a reason. So, I think we have to be fair to Braxton in terms of what the expectation level of what he is capable of. That being said, when I see it, I know Jerry started it in the chat and now we're going at him, but Jerry is always in our chat at CHGO Bears, and I want to bring him into this discussion because he says something here that always triggers me, because Guy Finley used to go at me about this last season at this time when they were trying to figure out who the left tackle is. Oh, well, Ben knows better than you. Of course, I will never argue such a statement. Of course, Ben Johnson knows more than me. And Jerry says in the chat, I'm happy with whoever Ben decides is our left tackle. That's great. And you can go to that default as a fan. I mean, that's not really what
Jerry probably has a Fields jersey in every color too, because he was a Bear.
That's what I'm saying. That's not really what we do here. And last year at this time, they were deciding as Braxton is their left tackle by default. And I had my hesitations in saying that was going to work out and question that was the best decision for the team. And I had fans like Guy and others like, well, Ben knows better than you. Well, a few weeks into the season, Ben changed his mind. So that's what I love about Ben. He doesn't dig his feet into the dirt on any decision. It's merit-based, and that's what matters. And I've got a great clip here when we come back over overtime that where Ben talks about the merit-based system that they use here at Halas Hall for the team. But at the end of the day, that is what it is. I also want to give a shout out before we do get to the top of the hour, and I give a little quick read before I hit that overtime button. But I also wanted to give Phil his proper shout out for, Darnell Wright getting that extension as we put a bow on the offensive line conversation. We shared, Shane shared a clip on social media after the extension was dropped of Phil banging the drum for the Bears to draft Darnell Wright. And I know for a fact that was months before the draft had occurred, not weeks or days. And, certainly I think through people's research, I think Darnell Wright started to gather momentum, across the league. He was initially projected as a late first round, early second round pick, and all of a sudden became a top 10 pick for your Chicago Bears. Phil identified that very early in the draft process. Also want to give a shout out to our guy, Corey Wooten, who was doing CHGO Bears After Dark with me pretty regularly back then. Also was very high on Darnell Wright from the jump. Well, that worked out, and a big cog here in Ben Johnson and Dan Rochar's offensive line. So shout out to Phil. That's the research these guys do on the Tape Never Lies Network, and that's why you make sure you need to be subscribed to their channel and all the content they put out, whether it's breaking down the film for their Patreon subscribers or everything else they do on game days during the week, keeping it 100 on Wednesdays. These guys do an absolutely fantastic job, and I will put their draft analysis up against anyone, and I mean that. And that's why the proof is in the pudding, not just with the tape for the players on the field, but the tape with the analysis from these two guys. That being said, we have reached the top of the hour, and as I always do, got to give a reminder for you to become a diehard and whatnot here at CHGO Sports. Head to allchgo.com/diehard to sign up. Use that code Johns, JAHNS, for $36 for the entire year subscription. All right, I teed it up. I teased it before the break, and that is Ben Johnson talking about what the standard is and how the message is delivered at Halas Hall when they're watching the film. I had to tee this up because I knew you two would like it more than anyone.
We tell them the truth in the meetings. So that's they take what is said in the building very seriously. We have a bunch of professionals. They want to be great, and so when it's good, we let them know that it's good. When it's not good enough, we let them know. 2 days ago, practice was not good enough as a whole team, and certainly not as an offense. When you have false starts, delay games, drop passes, center quarterback exchange, it's really not a good practice. You can't evaluate the defense either. So we have a long way to go. Appreciate all the flowery comments there, but they understand that we're just getting started here in camp, and hard work is really what we're doing every single day.
I swear to God, this is bugged out. If one of my coaches is watching this show, I literally stood in front of the team tonight and said this same exact thing that he just said. If you want to be great, you're going to have to hear the truth.
That's right.
If you want to be great, if you want to play soccer and flag football, we can say, you know, what a great effort you did and yada, yada, yada down the line. You want the truth? This is where it begins. We analyze it through the tape. My wife bought me meta glasses for my birthday, and I'm getting used to that so I could tape these drills. This is a head coach. This is a standard and an understanding of what is the expectation for the team, but also there's a domino effect that your career can ascend and transcend wherever you thought it was going to go. When you have that kind of accountability and not worrying about everybody's feelings, like the standard is the priority. The team is the priority. If you're not living up to your own standards, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and understand that. That's what we were just talking about, Braxton Jones. There's an issue that you honestly have. And someone said, well, you can't change genetics. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. It's called plyometrics, hang cleans, box jumps, constant working on that lower half of your body and your glutes and hamstrings. When you put effort into your weakness, you get 1% better every day and keep getting better. You're going to get stronger there. So it might not look strong to, you know, as you walk down the beach in shorts, but when you get your pads on, you're able to do things differently than you ever have before. And that's just the reality of actual football that doesn't get talked a lot anywhere, but we do it here on After Dark with you. And I'm proud to be here talking football with you and the Chicago Bears, because
we had a super chat here from Greg, the third leg in the chat with a $2 super chat, echoing the sentiment, saying Ben Johnson staying at Halas overnight equals GOAT psycho. Appreciate the super chat. I did want to pay off something that we kind of teased earlier because I kind of cut into Shane's thunder as he was kind of starting to delve into Dylan Thieneman, and I highlighted our guy in the chat vibe saying, what about Thieneman? And obviously there's just been a lot of worry about the reporting of how he's looked at camp, because more times than not, the only time you ever hear Dylan Thieneman's name in a report at camp, it's him getting beat by Colston Loveland on a rep, whether it's 1-on-1s or 7-on-7s or 11-on-11s. You know, he just seems to kind of constantly cross paths with him as a safety, and Colston being a tight end, and Ben being able to manipulate through 13 and 12 personnel certain looks to force those kind of coverages and one-on-one matchups. And now you've got Dylan on an island. So Dylan's had his struggles here through the first 10 practices, trying to keep up with one of potentially the best tight ends in football. At least it certainly looks like a budding superstar in his own right. You guys obviously were much more on the train of a pass rusher or an offensive lineman. I was a big Dylan Thieneman guy. Certainly didn't think he'd fall to 25 to even have the conversation that the Bears would draft him. All of a sudden he does. So now I want to give you guys the floor. Shane, I'll start with you because we've kind of been letting Phil get a little bit of runway here. And I know you wanted to talk about Thieneman earlier and what you've seen on the tape that shows he needs to get better. And I'll just tell you from what I've seen at camp is a guy that certainly is having his struggles, but I can see the attention to detail. And I think that's something that we'll be able to hang our hat with Dylan. He'll always be prepared. Now, can he take that physical prowess and elevate to a level that is of NFL standard?
Yeah, I just think the hype with Dylan Thieneman during the draft, I mean, there was a point right, like a week or 10 days pre-draft where people had him creeping up towards the top 10, which you remember talking to Phil. I'm like, what is going on here? I mean, this ain't Sean Taylor. You know what I mean? A top flight safety prospect like that. But I mean, on tape, Phil can speak to it better than anybody. Some of his angles that he took, can he run with the best of them? Exactly. But is he an elite level tackler? No, he's not. I think Bears fans fall into a trap of much like when Kevin White was brought here, like, all right, we got wide receiver covered for the next 10 years. It doesn't work that way. Dylan Thieneman is not a guy that's just going to step out onto the field and be a top flight safety. I think he's got a lot of work to do. The tape speaks to that, and not that people in the NFL don't get things wrong. And he ended up falling, I think, farther than anybody else was kind of predicting. But, end of the day, I think that there's a reason what I pointed out earlier, that the Bears went out and got an experienced guy. Once Kobe Bryant went down, they go out and sign Xavier Woods, who's like I said, I believe 30 or 31 years old, been in the NFL for a minute. Get an experienced guy in there to help Dylan Thieneman in his ascension, because I just don't think he's ready-made day one, a guy that's going to come in there and just light the league on fire. I think he's got a long ways to go, and I know Phil can talk about what he saw on tape.
Well, I was on this show. All Greg has to do is go back a few weeks and listen to me talk about Dylan Thieneman, talking on this show about before everybody crowns him. I had concerns with how he was used at Oregon, because he was like a middle linebacker playing off at 10 yards. And that is not what he's going to be asked to do in the NFL. You're going to have to be a different kind of football player, unless Dennis Allen was going to do something different with him. But I expected these growing pains because I didn't see a great alley football player. Caleb Downs, I thought, was the best player in the whole draft. The drop off to Thieneman, I thought, was big. And that's why it was an easy choice for me. We've talked about it many times about the pass rusher there. It's unfortunate that the Cowboys took Lawrence, and then I would have turned to Texas A&M's defensive end. Why am I drawing a blank here, Shane?
Yeah, he ended up
from Texas Tech, defensive tackle or defensive?
No. The A&M. He ended up in Cincy.
Cassius
Howell.
Look at that! Look at the draft guy.
So many names in my head. Not to make an excuse, but yes, I would have 100% 100% traded up for Ruben Bain. If I was your GM, he would be on your roster. And thank you, Ivan. Cassius Howell.
Finally, he does something.
And the reality was Ivan was a little bit behind my boy Greg. Greg Braggs pulling the Cassius Howell.
Yeah.
Proud of you. But yeah, my concern is still the same. I think everything with a lot of these guys that analyze stuff, they don't really do the tape, and they put a lot of emphasis on RAS and combine scores and athleticism, and that has a place. I just always will win when I say the tape is the number one showcase of talent, and that is the end all be all with that. So Dylan, his tape was concerning to me, and I stand by that. So can they use him in other ways? Yeah, I mean, he could play nickel corner and be a very good football player closer to the line of scrimmage and being able to attack in a manner like that. You can use him how they used him as he gets more ready into the NFL game. I just think he's going to be overwhelmed. That's what I said. I'll be surprised if he's out there starting, is what I said on this show to begin. I'll be shocked because I didn't think he was going to be ready, but those over him are.
So here's a few things let me share with you from what I'm seeing. Now, you know, as other guys stepped up, I keep mentioning the DB from Iowa State. He keeps flashing, right? The safety from Oregon. You know, I know Zach Pearson mentioned that the before training camp started that the Bears were high on Skylar Thomas. I think it was undrafted free agent. He's gotten some reps with the first team all of a sudden here lately. So obviously,
they gave him. He was one of the highest guaranteed UDFA guys in terms of money.
So they're big. Yeah. They're big on him. They've been rotating a lot of different DBs in the safety and corner spots with all these injuries and the dime packages they're trying to look at. That being said, Dylan Thieneman, as we've it's just been noted a million times, he's getting beat up by Colston Loveland, as is everyone else that is getting lined up against Colston.
But Greg, you're there. You've been live. What if I were just an innocent bystander and I'm like, hey, Greg, what's your thoughts on Dylan Thieneman and what you've seen so far?
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
Yeah, I would say he has not flashed. And so when I say, oh, look at this DB flashing on the third team, well, that guy's not facing Colston Loveland,
Sure.
So like there's a different measurement gauge, right? Exactly. There's other guys that are flashing. Caden Davis keeps flashing. Now he did get a first team rep and then flash some more. So I'm not making excuses for Dylan. He needs to flash on the first team. He did run into a couple interceptions where he runs under the football, but let me tell you what I'm seeing from him. I certainly see a guy that's willing to fill the gap. Now, can he make the tackle? I don't know, but he is going to fill the gap. And so the other thing I see from him is a guy that feels like a scrappy tackler. Once he gets his hands on you, is he going to bring you down like you mentioned, Sean Taylor? Probably not bringing him down like Sean Taylor, but he's going to get you down, right? He's going to do what he can. He's going to be scrappy. I can see that. And then the other thing I see is ball pursuit, especially on the backside. There's a lot of plays where you see Dylan Thieneman is the guy that comes in behind, not giving up on the play, trying to rip that ball out. I could see him doing that 3 or 4 times throughout the year. So those are he did have a tackle for a loss at one point on Kyle Monungai where he filled the gap nicely. So I think he's seeing some of those things. And then I know you were about to follow up with a question, but let's bring Ben Johnson in the discussion and what he's seeing from Dylan Thieneman and his thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Someone made a comment to me from Tuesday's practice that looked like his organ tape. The practice on Tuesday, that looked like his organ tape. And it's hard to say that. I mean, it was our second day in pads, but you can see that play speed start to show up. He is thinking a lot, and the way he's wired is he wants to be on every little thing. And so when you are like that, you can potentially, in your quest to be right every time, slow down. And it's just a matter of getting enough reps to where he can let loose and get after it. But really pleased with where he's at. I think Al Harris and Matt Giordano, they're doing a phenomenal job getting him up to speed. And We're only a week and a half into it right now. We have a long ways to go, but really like where he's at right now.
Yeah, that's really what you want to see. I think there has to be a pause button. I think playing defensive back in the NFL coming into safety takes a mindset and a preparedness that I didn't see. I knew this was going to be where we would be with him. So I think you have to have a lot of time and patience here. You can't just assume because his RAS score is outstanding.
Right.
To go out there and dominate. And that's really where we have to be patient with this guy.
Phil, even more critical than that, and this is what Bears fans especially are very poor at. We're sitting up here on August 10th being critical of Dylan Thieneman, pointing out negatives. So people think that since we're talking negative about him, that his story has been written. Oh, Phil and Shane said he sucks. He's never going to be able to play. It's not about that.
Oh, you just said that? Good. Now I'm going to clip that. Go ahead.
But that my point is you can be openly critical of any Chicago Bears player, what you're seeing on tape. It doesn't mean that they can't improve. We talked about how we, when the Bears took Colston Loveland, that wasn't the move that we would have made. And we admitted that we were wrong about that. And I mean, if you go back on that same night, I said by year 2, Colston Loveland's going to need to be a top 3 tight end in the NFL for it to be warranted. And here we are. So I was wrong about that on draft night. But being critical of a player doesn't mean that this is the end of their journey and their story has been written.
Well, and here's what I said the other day. And this isn't just directed at Dylan. This is directed at Dennis Allen more than anything. But, hey, this Colston Loveland thing is awesome and a lot of fun, and we all see it. But I don't care. I want Dennis Allen to throw a counterpunch here the next 2 weeks. Every player they line up against Colston is getting beat. So I want to see this defense, not just Dylan. I want to see this defense throw a counterpunch to a player that presents constant mismatches. I understand he's a unicorn, and there isn't many Colston Lovelands that play tight end in the NFL, and there isn't many tight ends that the Bears will face on their schedule that are like Colston Loveland. That being said, there are plenty of weapons in the NFL that present mismatches and present, problems where defenses are put in a bind on a down-to-down basis. And I want to see that creativity from Dennis Allen, and I want to see this defense and these DBs throw a counterpunch and stop letting Colston Loveland baptize them every day. And so Colston, Dylan's getting trial by fire, drinking water out of the fire hose, all those different explanations. And I like hearing Ben talk about, it looked more like the Oregon tape. And, if you listen to Dylan, whether it was in our interview, with him at the combine or different coverage through the offseason where he explained at Purdue, he was more in the box. He did rack up 3 straight years, I believe, sophomore, junior, senior, whatever, where he had over 100 tackles each year. And yet, the pre-draft analysis was that he wasn't a good tackler. I've always had trouble understanding that completely. I get the gist of it. His form tackling isn't sound, but again, I believe he's a willing tackler. But then when he got to Oregon, he became more of their center fielder rover. And that's what Ben Johnson was referring to when he says it looked more like the Oregon tape and that speed you see. And I think that certainly is something that is, I can say with some confidence that this defense, which you're not going to get too much from camp. You got to see it in the preseason. You got to see a little bit more of this in joint practices and scrimmages like tomorrow. But you are seeing that speed elevated, whether it is, a guy like a Dylan Thieneman or Devin Bush as a linebacker, your guy, DeMarco Jackson roaming around doing his thing. You see that speed that they've elevated in the offseason. But Dylan Thieneman has a long road ahead. Let's hear Dylan Thieneman's thoughts on how he's adjusting to playing in the box in the NFL.
Dylan, how comfortable are you playing in the box opposed to the line of scrimmage?
I feel very comfortable. Still, obviously, get more reps, can be better at that, always working to get better. But I feel good down there. I feel like more reps, I'll just get more and more comfortable.
In those reps, what's it like facing Colston? What's it like facing Luther? Getting those reps against those types of players?
Yeah, no, I'm very grateful to go against them. They're very good players. So, going against him every day just helps me to get better. Like iron sharpens iron. So I'm very glad to go against him.
This guy's a total gym rat. He's not one for the podium or the nonsense in his Ben said. He wants everything to be perfect. So I think he's cut from the cloth that Ben wants. But as you guys said, a long way to go to elevate to, being what I think a lot of Bears fans are hoping and expecting out of a first round pick safety.
Absolutely. And listen, they're able to sit down with him. They know what he's like in the classroom and what he's like in the weight room and everything like that. I mean, clearly, physically, he's ready. Mentally, he's probably swimming a little bit, but I don't think you're going to find anybody say that Dylan Thienemann's not willing to put in the work. I just think people, assuming that he's just going to come in and set the league on fire, a little bit misguided and just overrating the first round pick of the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. So I want to give you guys a runway as we're rounding third and wrapping up here, on CHGO Bears After Dark here on a Monday night. Tomorrow, obviously, is a big practice, a scrimmage that's going to be in the later afternoon. Our CHGO Bears post-practice.
Will you be able to stream it for us fans?
Yeah, this isn't family night up in Wisconsin, my friend. We do things different here in Chicago, and we don't give away state secrets for anyone to ascertain the playbook. Super important things. Never mind the fact that Ben literally has like 14 different layers of every play. Doesn't matter what formation. He's got like 18 plays out of it. So I don't know how much you can really derive from a Ben Johnson practice with the amount of branches that spread with one Ben Johnson playbook. Anyway, wanted to give you guys the runway. We got plenty of coverage coming up tomorrow. Let's wrap things up.
Will you be there watching this?
I will be there tomorrow in attendance, live tweeting as this scrimmage is unfolding. Certainly excited for that, as long as weather permitting.
You will give us a more advanced notebook, the Bragg's notebook.
The Bragg's notebook. Maybe I'll jump on Wednesday.
We have to be rushed.
I think he's starting a blog, right?
I'm starting a blog.
Yeah, I think so.
That's what we heard.
Need you to do something over there at CHGO.
Yeah, well, you gotta stay busy. They're not paying me to be a scratch golfer, but we are inching closer and closer to that goal.
Can you chart offensive line reps for us, like Hogue charts completion percentage in practice, or Pat Norton?
You know what's funny?
Yes.
The music has been on the whole show.
Yes.
Yeah. Carm just texted him and let him know.
I had no idea the music was on the whole time. Steven's watching the show. He never said anything.
It's very low.
How has it? It is really low.
Low man wins.
No one has said anything in the chat. Steven, I don't think has said anything in text. That's a terrible job by him. We never do it this way, but I kind of like it.
Well, we do it.
Steven's saying, no, it wasn't. I swear I have not touched it the whole show.
Hear it if you listen quietly.
It's been on.
It's been on the whole show, Steven. That's crazy.
Yeah, those little trumpet horns.
We got to keep it going. We can't turn it off. We can't turn this off. That's amazing.
At the top of the hour, if you pay close attention, you can hear the trumpets of CHGO.
Oh, man. That's funny. All right, guys. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up and put a bow?
Emma's going to be so mad when she finds out.
That's Steven's going to be. I don't know what the protocol here is. I kind of like it personally. That's what we do. We're changing the game here on CHGO Bears After Dark. Okay. Give you the runway. Keep it at 100 coming up on Wednesday. Big practice tomorrow, scrimmage. Lots of things have transpired. Bears looking good. Shane, I'll start with you, and then Phil will do his 8-minute rant. Go ahead, Shane. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'm ready for these games to get here. We're one step closer. My guess is we're not going to see Caleb Williams this Saturday, but we'll see him in week 2 of the preseason. But I'm over the moon about where Ben Johnson is, what his beliefs are in, training camp and setting the foundation of this team moving forward. I think we have full buy-in from the young guys. And again, we started off the show by talking about what got me the most excited, and it's the year 2 ascension of number 18. Everybody was so worked up, and it's all about completion percentage, and there's too many balls hitting the ground, and they actually had to stop plays, in the middle of training camp. Lord forbid. I mean, it's almost like that's what practice is for. But now you're not hearing so much about that. They're making strides each and every day. There is going to be bumps in the road, but the Bears have a quarterback. The Bears have a head coach, and that's where it all starts.
Absolutely. Phil, final thoughts.
Final thoughts here as you enter a scrimmage where your energy and effort and everything that you've been working on comes to fruition in front of everybody. If you remember last year, the Miami Dolphins went away whining and complaining about the stance that the Bears took, which ended up propelling them to where they went to. I think the team is a reflection of the head coach. That I believe Ben is bought into that belief as much as I have in my coaching career. And I think the Bears have to go out there, set the tone that this is the standard of how we play football. And during that, reach for the stars in regards to their effort in finding answers at critical positions. This is the time that you get it when you're going against others in live bullets and you have been working diligently on your technique, your assignment, and your alignment. You get an answer as a coach. Is this guy for real, or is he what we're afraid he is? This is where the surprises show up and the answers show up. And hopefully they all are good. That's the goal. But it also can get you a pink slip out of town when you don't answer that standard of what it is that is going to be expected to be met. And I'm excited about it. I'm glad Greg is going to be there because I trust Greg. I know he gives himself some crap sometimes where he doesn't know, but I think when he says flash, I saw someone take a shot at you, and I understand what Greg's terminology is in flash. You want to see someone that shows up, that should show up. You want to see an effort that is made that says, "Wait, wow." And that's what he's talking about with someone like Anthony Johnson and the receiver Davis. When you see these things, they shouldn't go unnoticed. They don't go unnoticed if you're a good coach.
Yeah, and Jordan Vandenberg is another one of those guys. We didn't get a chance to talk about him tonight, but I love Dennis Allen's thoughts on, hey, when you're on the third team and you're starting to flash, well, we got to find ways to get you on the second team. And when you start flashing on the second team, we got to start finding ways to get you first team reps. And that's exactly what's happened with Jordan Vandenberg. And what I loved about Dennis Allen and why he said that, he's like, it's not just a merit-based thing. It's for us in our evaluation. We need to see him go up against the best to understand what kind of a player he is. And that just puts a bow on the whole point I've made forever for the 8 years we've been podcasting, and why preseason reps are important, why preseason reps to me matter more at times than joint practices, and why you need to start your starters, because as much as the injuries are tough and they're going to happen, and there's a necessary evil that is this time of year, you will never fully understand who your players are until you challenge them against the best and in the highest leverage moments. And you can't simulate those things at practice all the time. Sometimes they got to be done under the lights, even if it is a preseason exhibition. So that's always been my contention, but I trust Ben Johnson to always make the right decisions. He did a great job, a masterclass in navigating this team through August last year, where this team had a lot more problems than it does this year, even with the amount of injuries that have piled up through these first 10 practices. So excited for the next couple weeks. Some big time practices here coming up, some big time preseason games coming up, including this Saturday. We'll be live pregame at 11 a.m. The game's at noon. Then we'll be live immediately following the game, just as we're live for every post-practice show throughout training camp. So appreciate everyone joining us. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as always if you haven't already, and make sure you're showing these guys some love and subscribing to the Tape Never Lies Network. They will be live on Wednesday for Keeping It 100, along with a lot more programming at your fingertips. So much to discuss, so much to get into, and such a great time to be a Bears fan. Let's not take this for granted. So with that being said, as we've hit the 90-minute mark here on this show, thank you to everyone for tuning in. Thank you to Shane and Phil for your expertise as always. And we'll catch you tomorrow, late evening, following a big-time scrimmage at Halas Hall. Excited for it all. Make sure you tune in. We'll see you then. And as I always like to say, keep your head up and always bear down.
We all silly like the mayor.